Okay, great. Well, there we are, live on Quantum Leap, and we have the second segment. Cory and I were just on talking about this concept of industry leader, and for the record, my makeup artist didn't show up today, so I look a little blue or purple or something. So, but I'm gonna have to fix the lighting here. But we're excited to have Pradnya Leitner on, who's really my business coach and the person who's made the biggest difference in my life in the past, since I started my business 3 or 4 years ago. And so I'm just grateful to her. And Cory and I already did a check-in, but Cory and I is also a business coach. And we were kind of, I know we've tried to reconcile these two schools, or it's not really two schools, but this, well, I'm going to just let Cory introduce himself and tell us about his philosophy in coaching. And then we're going to hear from Pradnya. And I always like to talk about this concept of business coaches and what makes you guys unique in your own way. You're muted, Cory.
Well, there's a lot of background noise going on here. Hey, everyone. So I'm Cory and I, and a business coach. My company is Take Wing Coaching. My philosophy of business coaching, I come at it from, I was trained by some pretty amazing people who started out in the referral marketing business, right? How to build relationships to grow a business through those relationships. And, so some of the best, they run world-class networking organizations. And so a lot of the concepts that they took, they kind of brought into how do you develop the person to be more relational, right? Some people are great at relationships, but they may not be so great at finding new and building new relationships. So the whole system was kind of designed around, who you are, where you come from, and where you're going, and who should come along with you. And we left that company a couple of years ago, but we brought a lot of that same kind of concept into our business coaching. Like, who are you? Why are you growing this business? Where is it going? And, why should anybody come along with you? Whether that's, referrals, employees, clients, whatever. So our whole philosophy is really about a business that is centered around purpose, being purpose-driven, and having a big vision, but then also getting down into the nitty-gritty of, how do you set goals? How do you set action plans? And, conduct sales, marketing, and operations. We do a little bit of mindset coaching along the way because a lot of that comes up, but we don't necessarily go into that deeper work. But the philosophy is also that everybody is different on how they approach things. So we have a lot of different tools to help people choose a la carte what's going to work for them, and then help it make it work for them.
Great. And, now I want to get to Pradnya, and I'll just say a quick little testimonial, some of the history. If folks hadn't seen the earlier broadcast with her, we've had her on a few times, and I just really love having people back because there's so much to drill down on. But really, when I changed careers from politics to video production, I still was kind of just lost for a while. And Pradnya was one of those people who saw the potential in me about that I didn't necessarily see at that time. And the thing she's taught me how to do that for other people. So it's really provided this huge ripple effect. And what she teaches is just hugely valuable. And it's so rare that I see it taught in the way that she teaches it. And I'm just going to let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her and her story. And then we're going to drill down on a few of these issues really about mindset and what makes her teachings very unique. Thank you.
Yeah. Lovely to be here again, David and Cory. And Cory, you're spot on. What I love about Cory and myself is that we're very complementary because skill set is critical. But I always tell David and others that mindset and skill set, we've got to put them in right progression or order. You cannot put the horse, or rather cart before the horse, right? So strategies and tips and tools and techniques are very, very important. But when you have the mindset in place, you really position yourselves to get the most ROI from it. So again, I love that, Cory's company provides sort of a 360-degree training on it. And then I really focus a great deal on mindset. So what is it that I do? I'm a mindset coach. and I help people gain business and personal success. And how do I do that? I help people understand how and where their results in life and in business get created. And once they understand, then I help them again glean or understand. I teach them how they can reprogram their mind, reprogram their brain so that they can get to the prosperity, the fulfillment, the success that they want in life without having to sacrifice the decades of their existence on this planet Earth, right? That is my whole and sole purpose. And again, Cory, coming back to you, purpose underlines everything. So again, who do I serve? Purpose-driven entrepreneurs and individuals, as well as corporate executives is who I land up serving. But anybody who has a desire to live the life of meaning, purpose, contribution, legacy, welcome to my world. So David, I hope that helps, your audience to get to know me a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's great. And there's a lot more we could say there, but I did want to kind of get to some of these key concepts that I think are the best entry points to some of your teachings and the change that it is able to make. And, we're on a call almost every week or something. So we really drill down on some of this stuff, and it's so hugely layered in all the things that you learn. And I think most people really they err and they're trying to change behavior without changing their mindset or kind of who they actually are over time. And, this may sound very abstract, but it's really been the key to my success and the excessive success of many others, that this process of personal transformation and what's really possible there. For example, how do we become the person that we need to be to accomplish our goals? Because the results we're getting right now are from the results that this person's created, but to get to where we want to be, we actually have to be a bit different or a lot different in a lot of ways. I don't know if you could explain this concept and the importance of why this matters and kind of how to get started.
Powerful question, David, as always. You hit the nail right on the head. The person who sets my goal is not going to be the person who accomplishes my goal. Likewise, the person who sets your goal is not going to be the person who accomplishes that goal, right? And there are very many layers to it, but maybe I can just speak to a few of them. And then I'd love to share just briefly my story to really help people understand that what I'm saying, there's truth to it, because I literally had to follow it to the letter, to the T. Goethe, a German philosopher, puts it beautifully, and I think his teachings were circulated in 17th or 18th century. But he said that you have to be, do, have. So I can't just be doing and having, and then waiting for people to validate what I did so that then I can say I became that. No. It really becomes, or rather begins, with you becoming that person. But now when I say you becoming that person, right, it can't just be doing, because now let's focus temporarily, just time being, on behavior. And I will take a deeper plunge. I'll come back up. Let's say we're behaving as we're behaving, right? That's the action that our body is taking. But where is the command issued? The command is issued by my brain or my nervous system. Yes, you with me? So then, but the brain and the nervous system, even after people die, can be in labs. It's not working. It's not functional. So who is operating that brain and the nervous system? It's the real you, which we say, some people might call it the spirit, the soul, but in my language or vocabulary, it's the conscious being that you are, your pure awareness. And because of your intellect, you're aware of things, but your brain and nervous system, AKA your mind and intellect, is programmed over time. So when we say, I want to go after this major goal that I've never done before, we cannot simply just do the doing. Here's another example. Because when, let's say, two entrepreneurs or two executives, two individuals are doing same things, but fetching altogether different results. Why? Because this person who's successful, his inner dialogue and mental diet and conversation is very different. So his brain is aligned with the results that he or she wants, and his action is reflective of that. Because action is not just action, it's mental action combined with the physical level movement, which is what we term as action. So I can't just be, taking exhaustive action and expecting results that a person is getting because he or she is taking inspired action. So now again, coming back to the person who's not getting the results, his or her mental conversation, mental diet, internal dialogue is very different. And an example that would really help me take this home is that an athlete, right? When he or she gets on a court or a field, there's a 50% chance that they will lose. You know it, David, right? And they're not playing with rookies. They're playing with professional level athletes who are on the opponent, who are their opponents. But when an athlete gets on the field, then he or she enters into the spirit of being at his or her best and winning, even though the 50% chance of him or her losing is looming right there. And so where is all this happening? On the mental plane. And so again, that is what I say, that you have to really become that person with your thoughts, with your emotions, with your beliefs, so your action can really carry out who you have become and fetch you those results. I have one more example, but I want to take a quick break. Is this making sense, David?
Yeah, perfect.
Right now, so as I said, one more example, I want to share a story. This story was shared, I think, several decades ago, but there was a farmer in Wisconsin, okay? And now when David is saying you have to become a different person, David, to our audience here, David is referring to the conscious being, the pure awareness that you are, that you have to evolve, that you have to change, you have to become aware of what's possible for you because you know yourself. Not just the strategies, tips, and tools. And it's not optional. Even when you grow yourself, then you've got to get to strategies, tips, and tools, because that's the mechanism with which you get the results. But you have to enter into the spirit. You have to understand the mental dynamics so that you can uncover the how and which strategy is in alignment with who you are. So the example I wanted to share was, a farmer in Wisconsin. This is maybe a hearsay or a real story. He had a big pumpkin patch, and here he's growing big pumpkins and whatnot. And this was a season when he had just planted the seeds and whatnot. So a tiny little pumpkin was there, and then he stumbled upon sort of a glass jar on his field. And so then what he did, he put this tiny little pumpkin through the neck of the jar into this glass jar. And so when the season came to reap the crop and take these big pumpkins home, Halloween's just around the corner, so hopefully it's resonating with you. But so the farmer found that all other pumpkins, were twice the size of the pumpkin that was in this glass jar. And that pumpkin in the glass jar had taken every last bit of space that was available to it for it to grow. So metaphorically speaking, that glass jar is our self-image. It's our mental conception of who we think we are. It's a mental image of ourselves that we intentionally created or habitually inherited, right? And with pumpkin, it can't get out of that glass jar, but you and I have the ability to go way past our limitations because we recognize that it was just a mental limitation. I don't have to buy into it. But for that to happen, you cannot escape the responsibility of you understanding you, who you are, what mind is. What's the relationship of the mind to your behavior, to your results? What's self-image? How do you really go through the fear? How do you really have, alignment between your action and your energy? So I really hope that I've covered this question in depth, in detail.
Yeah, well done. I have a little anecdote or my own understanding. We're going to shift gear a little bit here. I know Nancy Pelosi the other day was talking about this quote from Lincoln about the artillery of time, that just by doing nothing, that breaks us down. And I think really we have to be on the right path to be able to kind of use this artillery to improve ourselves. I'm always Bob Proctor talks about Napoleon, and, he was always big on artillery, but if we can kind of shift this focus of our kind of internal artillery towards improving ourselves from breaking us down, if we're not where we want to be, that breaks us down. But if we're putting that in the direction of our purpose, we're using that. And I think, how do you do that? So that's the big question. I think for me, it really comes down to daily process and the teachings that you share. And I think you, for example, you've grown in leaps and bounds as a coach, even in the past 2 or 3 years since I've known you. So I just wanted to ask you about, how do you get on that path, and, kind of what's the secret to your success? And pardon that analogy, which was a little bit tangential, but I think there's some truth to it, that we really break ourselves down unless we're on the right path.
Absolutely. I'll tie in my brief story. So I was in the corporate world and I spent about 10 years there. And don't get me wrong, the journey was beautiful. I started with IBM Corporation, International Business Machines, in corporate sales. And at the time, the journey was fulfilling, but coming back to Cory's point, I was not on purpose. So I was going fast in the direction that I didn't even know was leading me toward where. So on paper, my resume looked stellar, but there was no satisfaction or fulfillment. So if any of you are in that stage, know that there is absolute light at the end of the tunnel. But coming back to your question, David, I think you mentioned, repeat your question just briefly.
Really, how do you get on the path of this, where you're making progress and not spinning your wheels? Absolutely.
The shorter version of that is, I realized that your purpose is not something that you take lightly. And again, I hope that Cory previously spoke to it, or that David can pick his brain on another podcast. But purpose is something that is interwoven in our hearts. It's encoded in our DNA, but it's our recognition of it that at times is missing. So for me, it's my recognition of it was missing. And so when I realized that it's my perfect purpose, it's not something, that I am just randomly wanting to do. And when I recognized that, then I chose to shift the sail in a different direction. But the steps, and instead of just sharing my journey, the steps that you could follow is make a decision first. You will not know the how. Make a decision mentally, fuse with whatever it is that you want. And as you start thinking from that frequency, of possibility, the how will come to you. It'll reveal itself to you. So don't wait for external circumstances to all change before you can make that move. So now to David's question, how did I really, manage to grow when I started from scratch after leaving IBM and Salesforce, right? I chose to lead with purpose. So with that, if you're an entrepreneur, just put out tremendous value. Whosoever you're meant to serve, you will resonate with, okay? So the corollary to that, don't be driven by success. Now, success is your birthright. Please don't misunderstand me, okay? Because you're a creative being, but be driven by your purpose. So then in that case, let's say in the first attempt, you're successful, more power to you. But let's say if failure greets you, it's not the success that drove you to it. Even if failure greets you, you will look at it as feedback. Failure gives you experience. And without that experience, you cannot grow into the successful version of the person you're trying to become. So again, when you're driven by purpose, I see Cory nodding his head because that's what he's like, preach it to the choir here, Pradnya. But purpose, be driven by it. And then secondly, be willing to work on yourself as much as you work on your business. Because that is when you can hold your mind tightly shut against negative influences. That is when you can uncover ideas. That is when you can, take on a strategy and execute it like an athlete who has entered into the spirit of winning, or succeeding. So those are the two things, you studying you so that you can guide your mental processes as you undertake strategies, because action is a critical part of the creative process. I can't just close my eyes and things can't poof out of, thin air. So David, I hope I've answered that question.
Yeah, great. I just want to make a quick comment, then I'll turn it over to Cory. And, in looking at our interviews and some of these things, I really think there's so many different concepts here that you have to learn well to put all the pieces together. And that's why you could go on, a podcast every day, and somebody could watch those every day, but they still wouldn't get the same results they would working with you, because you actually have to kind of observe. And if you're leaving out, for example, the yeast, and you bake the bread, it's never gonna rise. So that's why you have to work with the coach. And I think we're just kind of sparking some of these concepts, but you really have to drill down and learn all of them well in order to get the results that you want. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cory for any comments and the rest of the interview. We have about 10 minutes left, Cory, just a time check for you guys. Thanks.
Yeah, I could definitely say you could probably read a lot of self-help books and get a lot of similar kinds of information, and it really won't tell you anything, because you're just going to basically feedback your own stories and everything else. So I'm a very good at self-talk, but I haven't actually learned a huge amount from that self-talk without working with coaches myself and facilitators, people who can facilitate, growth. And that's just the best way to do it. It's really the only way to do it. You can do it one-to-one, you can do it in groups, you can do it in big events, and whatever works best for you. And in fact, we'll kind of go into that with Pradnya here. So what kind of results do you produce for your clients? Maybe just a quick story. We don't have a lot of time, and I do want to get to the final question.
So I know in the interest of time, I'll just share some of the results that they're getting. And let's see if we have time, then I'm happy to share the story. But essentially, you've all heard it colloquially, people say it. When you want things to improve, you have to improve. When you want your life or business to change, you have to change. But nobody ever helped me understand who that you is. It's not my mind. It's not the body that I live in. It's the real me who then uses my intellect. So when I help my clients, and again, they're purpose-driven entrepreneurs, corporate executives, individuals. And again, you will see it this week. I will post on my Facebook personal profile the kinds of people that I've served. But in the interest of time, when they work on themselves, they come in with one business goal where they want to make a quantum leap. They don't know the how, but they have the desire, and personal goal. Now, again, they have a lot of goals, but I have them focus on one personal goal and one professional goal. And as they work on themselves and their understanding of how results get created to and through them increases, they're able to do a lot of things, such as multiply their personal income or business revenue, right? Attract the love life or the partner in their life. Get rid of stress, fear, doubt, anxiety, because they're able to guide their imagination to the right polarity. Have order in their mind, have calmness of mind, and really feel confident in who they are. And I don't mean to say in a facetious way, but genuinely, authentically, they know who they are. And as a result of that, they're accomplishing the results that they're accomplishing in any and all areas of life. So some of them have even written the books. One became a best-selling author. Another one, I just wrote, review for her book, and it's coming out in just about a month or month and a half. So again, the results vary. My question to you would be, what is it that you want? And it's not an easy question to tackle. You can tell me what is it that you don't want, but can you precisely tell me what it is that you want? Because if you can, then, and as you learn what David is talking about, to work with yourself and guide your mental processes, you absolutely can get to whatever it is that you deeply desire and aspire to become. So hopefully that helps, Cory. You're on mute, my friend.
The Zoom jumps to a little window. I can't always figure it out. So I'm just watching you there. So the next question would be actually, so just in the interest of time, just tell us who is an ideal client for you. So you tell us.
In a nutshell, as I said it before, it's purpose-driven entrepreneurs or individuals, corporate executives. But here are the three basic categories that they have come to me with or for. One is they are stuck. They don't know what has kept them stuck, but they know there is more in them. And that is where once they work on the mindset piece, they unlock their potential. Second category, they know how to keep lights up. They can afford to have a decent life, but they know they're capable of doing extraordinary things, right? And that is where they don't want to go just around the circles and keep getting the same results. So that is when, again, I can help, where they really want to break out of the rut. Even though they're in good enough state, they have a desire to get extraordinary results. And then the last category is where these people are successful people. I mean, you're asking, Cory, about the client story. One of my clients is a renowned lawyer in San Francisco Bay Area, and he's been in practice for 27 years. So I did not tell him anything about law because I don't know anything about law. It's okay. But what I taught him is to how to get the most of the knowledge that he's acquired. This again goes back, Cory, to what you were saying. We can read a plethora of self-help books and it's all knowledge packed up in the conscious mind. But you and I both know 96 to 98% of the time, it's our subconscious mind that's controlling our behavior and ultimately our action. So when they're able to shift this deeply rooted subconscious conditioning, this lawyer landed up winning cases. One was 11.6 million and another one was 4 million. And again, he said this was the best of his, performances. So his knowledge didn't change, his self-concept changed, thereby his action and results changed.
Well put. Well,
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We're just about at time here. I gotta go pick up Carrie, but we'll love to have you back soon. And I'll just ask Cory first if he has any closing remarks, and same with you, Pradnya, and then I'll wrap up here.
No, thank you for joining us today, and we'll go ahead and get David out of here.
Yeah. David, I'll be picking up my kid at 3 o'clock too. So we're sailing in the same boat. But here's what I would say in closing. It's coming directly from my heart. It's one life. This is not a dress rehearsal. There's a purpose in you for a reason. So take it seriously. Seneca said it beautifully. Time is arguably our most precious and least renewable resource. So treat your time that way and really go after